Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. Thank you so much for being here today. And for those who are watching the archive, welcome and thank you. We're going to talk about what's your caregiving impact today. And I'm going to share some insights and hopefully some inspirations for you to think through what does my work look like as I help support and serve family caregivers. And I use the word work very loosely. So it could be work as a volunteer, work as just connecting with family caregivers over social media, or a business you start, or a job you take that serves family caregivers. Okay, so let's start with our presentation. Here we go. Okay. So you may know a little bit about me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about myself. So just want to let you know that I started working with family caregivers in 1990 and then launched a small business to help them. I launched a website in 1996 that became one of the very first online caregiving communities. And then personally, I started helping my dad in 2004, and he died in July of 2023. And I started helping my mom in 2015, and she died in August of 2022. So I always like to add a definition of what we're talking about. So it's impact for the greater good. And when we think about the definition of impact, we look to inspire change. So as you think about how you want to work with family caregivers, think about how do I want to inspire change? How do you want to impact the family caregiver and the former family caregiver? You could pick to work with family caregivers. You could work to pick with former family caregivers, because we know after caregiving ends, we need support and help. So let's think about the change you want to inspire. In essence, what's your impact? So I thought through how we can impact family caregivers and former family caregivers. And I looked at it from the perspective of what do we experience during and after caregiving? So, what is our day like? So, you might decide you want to pick a time of day and then impact that time of day so that a family caregivers feel like they're connected to support. They have the help they need. They have time to relax for themselves. So it could be that you pick early morning, and early morning you provide support for family caregivers so they have time for themselves before anyone else gets up in the family. Interestingly enough, I was talking to one of our certified caregiving consultants. Her name is Jennifer, and she has a colleague, a coach, who started a program for early morning risers. Now, you would not think that that would be a revenue generating activity or business model, but it turned out that early morning risers identify very much as early morning risers and love to connect to others who rise early in the morning and use that time in a productive way. So, know your audience. Know your audience. It could be that you want to help overnight, meaning that family caregivers get up during the night to provide help and care. And maybe you think about a way that a family caregiver can read something to help them fall back to sleep. So you create a book, for instance. We're going to talk about what's the model or what does it physically turn into as you think about what's your impact. And so a book is one of the physical models of what your inspiration can be. It could be that you create a product that helps them get up at night to help their carry to the bathroom, for instance. So maybe there's something you develop that you think, I put this hack together during caregiving and it helped me. I want to bring it to market. I recently connected to a family caregiver for her grandmother who wants to inspire, I guess you could say, the day by creating these edible, I don't know if you would call it pieces of candy. Now, candy is not the right word, but they help with dehydration. So a Carrie eats the little pieces almost like a gummy bear, and that helps with their hydration. And she developed this product because her grandmother had challenges with dehydration because it was hard for her to actually keep drinking during the day. And so these edibles helped with her grandmother's hydration. So she created a product that she's bringing to market that can help family caregivers and carees. So we can also think about, how do we want to change a family caregiver's perspective, for instance, on the past? So we all struggle with guilt around what we did yesterday, last week, the moment before. So maybe you create a solution that helps a family caregiver release any regrets they might have or find peace about their past. So you help them find peace in their past, and maybe you think about in the present, you help them create a strategy to manage the moment. Sometimes we get too stuck in the past, and in the future, we forget to be present in the moment. And so you inspire change by helping a family caregiver stay present in a moment. So I recently started doing a lot of work around helping family caregivers manage a weight. That's a different way of looking at the present. So during a caregiving experience, we have weights, WAITS, for news, for results in a doctor's office, for the next decline. We can feel perpetually stuck in a wait. We might feel like I'm waiting for things to get easier so I can get back to something in my life I love that I put on hold. That's present of waiting. So I've worked through, how do we help that moment of waiting during a caregiving experience? So you could think about something like that. That's the present. And then the future, we worry about what will happen next. So I have put together help and support around worries. Every worry needs a plan is a philosophy that I have embraced and lived by. And I teach that in our training programs, and I teach that with family caregivers. That's the future. We have a worry about what could happen next. And then we can find ourselves in that worry in the future that has not happened. And that can be particularly stressful for us. So how do we manage a worry? We manage it with a plan. We could worry about money. I'm not sure if I've ever really connected with a family caregiver who has not worried about money. So finances are a worry from our perspective and on behalf of our caree. So what is a solution that helps a family caregiver figure out, how do we manage these finances? I saw a young woman on TikTok who has created a way to help her peers save money. It's an old-fashioned way of using envelopes. So she figured out a system for her around envelopes. So she would put in spending money in an envelope for spending money. She would have other envelopes for her monthly bills, her weekly bills, her rent, and she used the envelope system so she could be very aware of what money she had, what money she needed, and how to make sure that it balanced out. So you could think about finances and think about what's something that you use that you have just thought, it's so simple. I can't believe I could turn it into a product, but you could. And again, thinking about this fabulous young woman on TikTok that brought back the idea of envelopes to manage a budget. And what she did is she started helping individuals figure it out. Then she started a line of envelopes that you could buy that are decorated in really cool ways. It's amazing. So there's probably something that you're doing right now that you have just kind of overlooked or minimized. Oh, that's no big deal. It's so easy. It's easy for you. And when it's easy for you, you have an opportunity to teach it, create it, model it, make it. So we have perspectives about our caregiving experience, and maybe you want to offer a way for family caregivers to work through a current perspective that hurts them so that they can find a better perspective that helps them. There's a nuance around perspective shift because you want to meet the family caregiver where they are and help them understand that the reason they have a perspective is because of everything they've endured. It makes sense that you have this perspective. And then you want to work through to help them find a different perspective. Just because you tell someone they can have a different perspective doesn't mean they're going to actually embrace that other perspective. So, perspective shifting does take a nuance. It is a skill. And again, it's meeting someone where they are with a perspective and then supporting them to come to a different one, a healthier one, a better one. You might think that you have a process in place that streamlines care in the morning. That would be something that you could help a family caregiver with. You might have a process around after caregiving as it relates to managing a caree's funeral, managing all that entails around a death, the death certificate, the cremation, or the burial. You have figured out a process. That would be something that you could teach or offer. So, a process around caregiving, a process around after caregiving, any process that you feel like, boy, this really helps me, that's an opportunity to teach. We can also think about how will we impact relationships. So, one of our certified caregiving consultants looks at how do we impact a relationship between a family caregiver and a caree with effective communication strategies. So that's her specialty. She teaches how to effectively communicate so that the relationship improves between family caregiver and caree. You could think through, for instance, how you managed a difficult relationship with a sibling and somehow still managed to keep that sibling involved and helping, even though that sibling made you crazy. So you could teach others how to work effectively with a difficult sibling. Could be the routine. And sometimes the routine changes so much that we think it's impossible for me to figure out a routine. Maybe you have been able to adjust your routines regularly. You have figured it out. It doesn't throw you off. You just think, oh, something has changed. Let's change the routine. You are great at problem solving. You could help a family caregiver figure out, how do I continue to adjust a routine as resources, care needs, availability, money changes. We know that a caregiving experience is stressful. Perhaps you have figured out how to manage stress. Something that I believe we have not focused enough around with stress management is the idea that what we forget to do or cannot do or struggle to do during our caregiving experience is relax. And maybe you figure out a tool that helps a family caregiver relax. So when I think about a cure for stress that I needed, it was the ability to relax. And yet it was the hardest thing because I couldn't turn off the noise in my head. Maybe you have figured out how to do that. So you have a solution for stress management that's called relaxation. Maybe you want to change how a family caregiver feels supported, where they go for support, how they receive support, who provides support. It could be around training. Something we grow weary of during our caregiving experience is constantly training new help. So we, for instance, use a home care agency and we have a different home health aide every week. So we're constantly training. Maybe you figured out a way through an app or a binder or some other system that lessens the burden on the family caregiver to train staff. That would be a huge one. There is an app that actually does that, and I cannot remember what it is, but you could search to see what else is out there on the marketplace. And if, for instance, you find this app that I'm a Care Trainer, that's the name of it, Care Trainer. If you look at this app and you think this is fabulous, what a great solution, perhaps it's then helping family caregivers start to use this app. So it really is a solution. During our caregiving experience, what seemed like an easy solution to implement to others outside of caregiving can feel impossible for us during caregiving. So an app that streamlines training sounds so fabulous, but it requires that a family caregiver sit down and add the training to the app. And it could be that it's just overwhelming to think about doing that. So maybe you add in a service or you offer support to help that family caregiver use that app effectively. You reach out to the app developer and you say, I think there's a barrier to utilization for this app, and I'd love to be a solution for it. And then well-being. How do we stay well during our caregiving experience? What does well look like? How do we stay gracious with ourselves? Maybe you figured out a way to lose the weight that you put on during stressful times during caregiving. And so you have a way and a system that you want to offer. Now, you want to make sure in all these solutions that you are not putting yourself in a position where you are diagnosing, treating, you are just offering ideas and systems. So that's important to remember. If you're not a nurse or social worker or physician, you want to make sure you're not in a situation where you're diagnosing and providing treatment. So if you go into the route of well-being, you could think about, you know what, I figured out how to work out and how to work out in a way that I actually lost weight. So maybe what your solution is, I can help you figure out the time during the day that you have 30 minutes to work out. And I can help you find a workout routine that really works for you. So maybe you have different apps that a family caregiver could choose from to figure out if this is the right app. I used to be good at doing 7-minute workouts. I'm not so good about doing that anymore. I would love to get back to that. So I'm going to get back to that. That is my goal. I'm going to get back to my 7-minute workouts. But you could do research to find a variety of 7-minute workouts, and you offer that as a solution to family caregivers. And maybe what you do is catalog the apps by categories. So if you're looking for a stretching routine that takes 7 minutes, here's the app. If you're looking for a cardio exercise that's 7 minutes, here's the app. If you're looking for Pilates that you can do in 7 minutes, here's the app. And then maybe you're a good cook and you think, I'm going to share some recipes that I know are good and healthy. Okay, so that's thinking through the change you can inspire. For those of you who have joined live, feel free to ask any questions in the chat room or share any inspiration that came to you as you think through this list. I want to mention one that I didn't add to the slide that you can also think about, and that is situations. Which situations do you want to impact? A situation could be a hospitalization, hospital discharge day. It could be, Judy and I were talking before we started, it could be finding affordable help. That would be a situation. It could be organizing help that combines hiring, through a home care agency, hiring family members. We do a monthly meeting, typically on the second Friday, where I help you think through how could you as a family member receive reimbursement through your caree or other family members for providing care. That's a situation. A situation could be burnout. So you describe and define burnout so that a family caregiver knows what to call it. And then you offer strategies and suggestions to help with burnout. Situations could be transitions from home to assisted living facilities, for instance. Situations could be when you first start to add in help and how hard that is. The day before help shows up, how do you manage stress? So you could help a family caregiver when they first start to add in help with that situation, including the day before the help comes, the morning of when the help is here, and then after the help leaves, and then the day after. What you would do is help them with that situation so that the help is trained, the carry is okay, and you're okay. What does that look like? How does that happen? Okay, so again, if you're joining me live, if you have any questions or thoughts or inspiration, feel free to share in the chat room. Okay, so you can see that there's a lot of ways to really inspire change. And something that I think is very important is to get specific. I hear all the time that individuals want to help family caregivers with self-care, for instance. I would say you want to get specific about that. And I also think you want to be careful about how you describe what you're trying to impact, because sometimes as family caregivers, we just tune out when someone talks about self-care because we just think, you don't get it. You don't get how hard it is to manage my own care during caregiving. So you want to pay attention to how family caregivers talk about any of these items on this slide and use the language that's relevant and resonates with them. Okay, so you've thought about making a change, creating something. So what is it that you actually create? So we talked about what you want to solve. That was the impact. That's the solution. Well, what's the form of the solution? So again, it could be a book. It could be a class. It could be coaching. Let's say you decide, you know what, I'm going to take a training program to be a coach. It could be that you launch a podcast. And again, I think if you get specific about the point of the podcast, it will help you. Maybe you launch a program. And the program could be family caregivers meet with you for 30 minutes once a week for a month. And during that program, they talk out what exercise routine they're using and what helps them, and you support them in their journey to find the right type of exercise during caregiving. It could be that you create a product. You start to offer a service. Let's say you think, you know what, I don't want to be in business, but I want to make an impact. So you decide, you know what, on social media, I'm going to share easy recipes. They aren't mine, but I found them, I tried them, and they're great. So on social media, you post recipes and then you add insights into when this recipe might be the time to use. It could be that you find recipes for family caregivers to use after they return from a doctor's appointment, or the day after they return, their caree returns home from a hospitalization. So on social media, you're providing great content, but you're also adding context for the content. Here's how to use it, here's why to use it, and here's the impact that I hope it makes for you. It could be that you decide, you know, on my website, I'm just going to have family caregivers who blog about what helps them manage the early morning hours of their day. And then maybe it's a website of stories around how family caregivers get up early in the morning and what they do for 30 minutes before anybody else gets up. Or maybe it's for the night owls. What do night owls in a caregiving situation do after everybody goes to bed? How do they spend the last 30 minutes of their day when they've got the house to themselves? And you could call the website The House to Ourselves. And all it is stories about how family caregivers manage when they have the house to themselves. Because sometimes we get the house to ourselves and then you think, well, I guess I'll just lay on the couch. I don't know what else to do, right? It's just this foreign experience. I have the house to myself. And your website is all about you have the house to yourselves. Here are some ideas. And then maybe it's workshops that you start to do either virtually or in your community. Okay, so any thoughts in our chat room around what it looks like, this impact that you create? And just want to mention that I've given you ideas, but these aren't all the ideas. You might find something else that works. You might start a show on YouTube where you demonstrate something that you really feel like, I'm an expert at this. I learned how to do this during caregiving and I'll help you. And again, you just want to make sure that it's not something where you're diagnosing or treating. And it's just, hey, I figured this out. I'd love to help you figure this out. Yeah, and TikTok is a great place to do a how-to. Yeah, thanks, Cynthia. Yep. I went on TikTok a couple years ago. Well, I started really watching on TikTok a couple years ago, and then it was like, oh my gosh, I can see I won't do anything but TikTok. So I stopped, and I did try to create content, but I was like, oh, this is just taking too much time because it was short form. You have to be so clear and concise within such a short amount of time that I felt like, oh, it's taking me too much time to figure this out. So I thought, I'm going back to YouTube. But you know what? It's good to experiment and see what's the social media platform, what's the venue, what's the form that works for you. I also want to mention one other thing too, that sometimes it starts with a book and then it becomes a class and then it becomes coaching. So where you start isn't where you end. It just is the inspiration for what could come next. So again, maybe it's a class and then it becomes a book and then it becomes workshops. So it's always awesome when you create a solution that can take many forms. Start with one form and then expand it as you get comfortable. Okay, so that's impact. I just wanted to mention a little bit about our training programs if you feel like they will help you with your impact. Our advocate training is free. It was free in November for National Family Caregivers Month. I extended it through December 5th. So if you're interested in that, it's 1 hour. We help you if you think, I'd like to start a support group. We can help you with facilitating an effective support group with our facilitator training. We have a guide training that helps you educate family caregivers around the 6 stages of caregiving and the 17 caregiving systems. So those are 2 concepts I've developed. We can help you if you want to coach family caregivers, if you want to not only educate family caregivers, but also educate others who become guides, for instance. Okay, so those are the training programs. I just want to mention a little bit about those. So I'm just going to go through the slides. There we go. So whatever you think about doing, we might have a training program that helps you. And I want to mention that we have this great deal going on in December of 2023. So our guide program is around educating family caregivers in the community around the 6 caregiving stages and the 17 caregiving systems. Our System Navigator program is around navigating the 17 caregiving systems. These are not coaching programs. These are not programs that help you launch a small business, but these are programs that would help you gain insight into how you might be able to offer a product or service to help family caregivers. And these will help you in your own personal caregiving experience. So if you think, you know what, I might want to go out into the world and start a small business, this is a way for you to get some market research. It's a way for you to start interacting with family caregivers in really profound and powerful ways that can help you figure out what's my next step around really offering a service or coaching family caregivers. So I think about this as prerequisites for what could come next. So you get both programs for only $295. That is awesome. That is awesome. So I'm so excited about these programs, and I'm excited that we're able to offer you this really great price. So I'll put a link in the chat room, and then I'll put the link below the video for any of you who are interested. So you can check them out and then see if it feels like a good fit for you, if it feels like it will help you on your road to making an impact. We'd love to have you join these. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop sharing and thank everybody who's joined us live. But I want you to stay with me if you've joined us live. And I want to thank everyone who's joined by watching our archive. Keep us posted on where you go with your impact, what the focus of your impact is, and the form of your impact. What do you create that makes an impact? Okay, so those who are joining live, stay for a few minutes. And those who are watching the archive, thank you so much. Keep us posted.